People of Reddit, what is better than sex? I have this one sweet spot way up high on the right side of my neck. The crack in that spot is super big and super loud, and it's my favorite one to get because it feels so good. But the wait period for when it's ready to crack again is super long. I got it last week, which means it'll be a good while before I can get my favorite crack again. Better than that. The best thing in the world is that special type of hysterical laughter you get when something unexpectedly hilarious happens, and you're completely incapacitated. Can't breathe, your whole abdomen has seized up with laughter. All you can do is gasp and wheeze, doubled over, tears streaming from your eyes. If you need a good laugh today, here's me cackling as my cat evolves into a box tortoise. Sound on. God, that is the exactly feeling that has made me so happy. I have one best friend who, no matter how long we have been apart, or what is going on in our lives, we can just be back together and have deep conversations, and I feel very comfortable and at home with him. It's the way you feel with family members, where you can look like shit, say whatever, not have to think about what you say, where you can sit in silence and it's okay. He is literally the only person I've ever felt familial love for outside of my parents, and quite honestly, I can tell him anything and be more myself around him than I can my family. Somewhat related, waking up at around the time that you normally would for work, and for an instant being overcome with that feeling, dread, that you have to get up and head to work for the day. Then, you have a moment of clarity where you realize that it's actually your day off, and you can go right back to sleep for as long as you want. Love that shit. Or, when you have that 180-second poop emergency cramp letting you know that no matter how hard you clench there will be no additional time before you violently shit yourself, and magically making it to that open public restroom with 5 seconds to spare. And as you squat knowing nothing is ruining your pants, the cramps simultaneously dissipate, and a tear of relief runs down your face, cheek. That's the best feeling. In grad school I took the beginner's yoga class available at my university. During one class about halfway through the term my back started to let off a series of ungodly cracks that felt like about a decade of accumulated tension being released at once. It got to the point that people around me were giving me "are you okay?" looks. That shit was magical. Walking out of that class I felt more loose and limber than since I was a kid. As someone with big boobs, I have to disagree. Not wearing a bra is way more uncomfortable than wearing one. But getting back scratches under the bra strap, that shit is fantastic. Edit, a lot of people saying they have big boobs and still hate wearing a bra. Someone suggested checking out our AskReddit fits to make sure they're wearing the right bra. For me, Victoria's Secret changed my life when I finally found the right fit and style. The fancy ones are rarely comfortable, but some of the less sexy ones are mind-blowing. I used to get bloated all the time, drinking through straws, drinking any amount of liquid too fast, etc. Eating too much wasn't actually that much. This was consistent for over a decade, and I just assumed I was born with a bad stomach that's just not aging well. On occasion I could fart out a stomach ache, but it was few and far between. One day a couple of years ago it just got completely blocked, distended belly, worst pain I've dealt with, and I had to get emergency surgery. Turns out I've had scar tissue from a prior splenectomy 20 years ago that ended up in the colon. My colon was swollen to the size of my thigh when they resected it. 3 months of a colostomy bag and reversal stuck my colon back in. Later, now that it's clear, I can say that I end up farting more often throughout the day, but never get stomach aches or belly bloating anymore. Not even after drinking a large coffee. It just comes in pockets and it goes right out, always short because it never gets a chance to build up. Amazing stuff. Night and day difference. Edit clarification, what I actually had was a twisted colon, sigmoid volvulus, likely stemming from scar tissue around it. Think of a garden hose twisting. So over the course of a few days of increasing bloat, nothing was able to get through anymore. They ran a dye test up the back end to confirm. A couple of years ago I had a $4,000 fart. I was all good one moment and the next was crumpled over in pain that felt a lot like when my appendix burst years before. I was certain something was very wrong, so got my roommate to take me to the ER, got scan tested and all sorts of stuff. Doctors were discussing exploratory surgery to see if they can find something. About 8 hours after the pain came around 11 p.m., I felt a big gurgling shift in my guts and let the longest, loudest fart I'd ever experienced or thought humanly possible. Immediately felt so much better. I stayed the night for further monitoring, left the next morning feeling just fine, then got my hospital bill. 6 grams of mushrooms and I went into labor. Waddling to the bathroom yet unsure of who I was, I cried, sweated and heaved on the toilet. It turns out I was God and I was giving birth to an entire brown log universe. I cried at the feeling of emptiness and relief that was felt in my bowels. The most beautiful universe lay before me as I flushed the toilet and watched the gorgeous swirling galaxy of water engulf my universe into a black hole. I completely forgot where I was for a couple hours, but I will never forget the feeling of that entire universe emerging and separating from my being. Read this while I'm taking a post-caffeine dump. The feeling when your ass touches the toilet seat after holding it in for what seems like ages, like a lonely wanderer stumbling upon an oasis after 3 long days in the desert. The cool caress of the seat is like a lover's whisper that triggers the opening of Uranus gates as brown water and debris burst out like it was a broken dam, without Doctor Strange to hold everything back. After the symphony of farts and moans accompanied with the odor of last night's dinner subsides, you'll be needing more than a cigarette as you lean back on the toilet seat, contemplating your choice of morning beverage. Fuck it, I'll do it all again, you tell yourself. Edit, first platinum has to be for a shit post. Wow, thanks guy. I think I was in 7th grade when I became severely dehydrated. This was back when Adderall was brand new and doctors were giving out 120 milligrams a day. I couldn't eat and when I tried drinking water I would vomit it. Finally, after 12 or so hours of dealing with this, I shit myself down my legs. I was so embarrassed, was taken to the hospital and stayed for 2 days. My grandma came and she brought this fantastic quilt she had spent a better part of the year on. When I was released she tucked it around me and it felt so warm and heavy that I slept for no shit 31 hours. I still have it and it my lightest throw blanket on the house. I think about it every time I cover up with it. I think being so weak was what made it feel heavy. So, those lab rats only chose cocaine over food or sex when they were deprived of social interaction. When they had healthy social interactions and exercise they actually would usually choose to stop ingesting cocaine altogether. Also, from personal experience, good sex is much better than good cocaine. You do the best coke and you feel great for like 20 minutes, and then like shit the rest of the day, night unless you keep doing more. If the sex is good I feel great all day and have no shitty come down lol. I had an intense psychedelic experience when I was younger, and was dating a woman who I loved deeply. In the experience I died. And instead of feeling fear or thinking about what I was leaving behind I just wanted to tell my girlfriend I loved her one last time. This taught me that even in the last moments of your life you aren't thinking about what you did or didn't do, how many cars you had or didn't have, what your job was or wasn't, how much sex you were having, etc. All that matters is the people you love. Love is the peak of human experience and should be treasured. It is really, really amazing. Indeed, it is the most pleasurable experience I have ever had. It is the best when you do it the first time. The tolerance builds up pretty quick after. It is not worth it for me though. Did it about 5 times when I was younger. It fucks so much with the dopamine and serotonin levels in my brain that I can end up with a week-long depression period and makes my usually bearable anxiety disorder absolutely horrible for weeks to come. I wouldn't recommend it if you are not 100% healthy from a psychological point of view. I am a gay man. I didn't have sex until I was 25 and have done a couple of times and it is the most underwhelming experience in the world. Very disappointed. For me almost any food is better than sex. I would say that after getting soaking wet under the rain, Taking a hot shower and then have a cup of chocolate watching my favorite show is the best experience in the world. Finally working that shard of glass out of the crease in my pinky finger. I had gotten it from a broken jar of ragu when I was younger. I removed most of the glass, and cleaned the wound, and it healed over, but for years, there was a sharp pain in that first crease on my pinky finger whenever I touch it. I could see the scar, and I could feel something in there. So like 2 decades later I start pinching the hell out of the skin on that pinky finger. I squoze and wiggled that skin, until I felt a little sharp edge protruding from the scar. Using both of my thumbnails, I worked the skin back and forth until I pushed that shard of glass out of my finger with great vigor and gusto. It must have been the size and shape of a house cat's broken nail. The feeling of relief when that glass came out. OMG, my daughter is 5 and regularly tells me she doesn't like me. She tells total strangers, "I don't like my dad," just out of nowhere. I went to pick her up at daycare the other day and she said she didn't want to hug me. The girl watching her said, "Oh, don't you miss your dad?" She said, "Sometimes I miss my mom. I never miss my dad. I love her to death. I love everything about her. She can say whatever she wants." As a man, I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about how sex is really only something that's just nice to have every once in a while but not at all necessary to live a happy and fulfilling life in the slightest. There are too many men that have this backwards, and that kind of mentality only leads down a road of hatred and depression. Can we normalize men that don't spend every waking moment chasing after sex? Can we normalize men who are focused on bettering themselves and living their best possible life without feeling they're entitled to sex? Okay, here's the thing. When a man hasn't nutted for some time varies from man to man, and age etc., sex is the most important thing in the world. But once the nut has been achieved, by any means, sex means nothing. He will proceed to dress like crap and go fishing or whatever manly activity that has absolutely nothing to do with sex. Coming is like a light being switched off. The difference is extreme. Women don't experience this variation to anywhere near the same extent. Sex is never everything to them, but it's never nothing either. The common mantra "men only think about sex" is utterly false and trivially evident just by the sheer amount of work and hobbies done by men that have nothing to do with sex, and in many cases counterproductive if the only goal was sex. It's actually more likely that women think about sex more often, as can be seen by women's magazines filled with sex, chick flicks filled with sex, clothes shopping etc. Lumbar steroid injections, specifically the numbing agent they inject along with the prednisone. It's the same needle used for epidurals in childbirth, so it's not exactly a comfortable procedure. But once that numbing agent kicks in, the pain immediately goes away and stays gone until it wears off in about 9 hours. For those of us who have been in literal constant pain for years, this is way better than sex. When you go to a new restaurant for breakfast and you order the pancakes, because that's your absolute favorite thing, and you wait for your order but are afraid they'll come out and they'll be overcooked or rubbery, but then they arrive at the table and they're goddamn perfectly golden and flaky and satisfying. Those kinds of pancakes are better than sex. This is super specific, but as a musician, sometimes you get so lost in whatever it is that you are playing that you black out, close your eyes, feel like everything is in order. Your fingers aren't even touching the instrument because it is now part of your body. I even catch myself drooling sometimes. Time stops. Nothing matters. You're not you anymore. You're 100% your creative artistic self. Then you snap back into reality and it feels like the latter part of an orgasm, tingly, hair rising happiness. You see that building? I bought that building 10 years ago. My first real estate deal. Sold it 2 years later. Made an $800,000 profit. It was better than sex. At the time, I thought that was all the money in the world. Now it's a day's pay. I'm gonna make you rich. Rich enough to afford that hot blonde you were checking out at my party last night. Getting those back scratches where the scratcher lightly runs their fingernails across your back. Dancing from place to place, building up a sort of electric tension across your back due to the minimal, teasing contact, then they dig in and release it all with sweeping scratches that alleviates all the tension, then rinse and repeat. Emptying a full bladder, like, when you drink all fucking day, yeah, haven't pissed at all, because it feels so good, you feel like you're about to flood your pants like the faucet. Man, but you don't. You whip that fucker out and piss like a horse. It just goes on and on. It causes such a powerful erotic element I beat my dick. As a non-virgin, literally anything, meth, murder, meth with murder, cooking meth, fighting a police assault, cooking meth while fighting a police assault, learning how to cook meth as you're cooking meth while fighting a police assault with one guy in your squad going around with no armor and somehow dodging all the bullets. The list goes on, but to sum it up, payday 2. A post-festival shower. You've been packed into a campsite all weekend, dancing, singing, not sleeping because those guys over there are murdering Wonderwall at the top of their lungs, or stealing a quad bike. And tents are really fucking uncomfortable, and your only sense of clean comes from a wet wipe. Getting back home to that first shower is absolute heaven. Getting that massive thing out of your nose each morning, the months following deviated septum repair surgery. You wake up, and it's there, it's huge, and it's fastened to the internal nose tissue. It's bothering you, but it's hard and stuck. But after a shower and a little coffee, it loosens up, and then while driving into work, wham, it comes out. The sense of relief, damn. Financial stability and independence inside of a relationship. People always say it's both your money. Fuck nah, we make separate money and we split on everything. If one person makes more, then it's their success that led to that. Love who you wanna love, but keep your finances separate and understand your financial responsibilities to each other. You'll be way happier and wanna fuck way harder. And this doesn't mean you can't buy them stuff. It means the understanding needs to be in place that what the other person makes is not your money. Also, prenups are sexy AF. Stay safe, kids. Protect your financial future. Lots of things: financial stability, relaxation, real daily happiness, a good work life balance, enjoying a cold drink on a sunny day, the company of a favorite person or dog, your favorite song playing on a road trip. This list could go on and on. Sex is overrated in my opinion. I enjoy it, but it doesn't control much of my behavior and what I do. Pretty much anything even remotely pleasurable because the porn-addicted men, read, nearly all men in USA, don't care, know how, and or have the physical ability to cause anything more than discomfort for me, yet have unrealistic expectations, all while treating me like a fucking cum rag. Since I stopped the insanity of trying to find a decent one, I've had more and better orgasms than any other time in my life. Both of mine include a shower. When my psoriasis flares and I get cracks on my skin, super hot water applied directly to the area is basically a whole body orgasm. Lasts about 20 to 30 seconds. I know it's bad for your skin, but it's amazing. Second one I have not experienced since doing tree work, but working 16 hours due to storm damage and then taking a shower and getting all that sweat, mud, and sawdust off of you. That's better than sex as well. When the feeling of having to be cautious stops being more prevalent than the feeling of joy and relief, when you are doing something you shouldn't be doing with your soul. No, I am not talking about sex. I am talking about being able to lay down, cuddle, watch movies, talk, laugh, without having to worry about someone coming in the room, or rather, house, unannounced. Love, deep earnest love, knowing that if you mess up or fail they have your back. If you succeed they are also there. If you are bored as all hell and can't find any relief of the constant hellscape that is life, they are there, unwavering but also flexible when needed, to bend and not break under the stresses that life throws at you. To know that if you are unable to function that they will pick up your end, knowing that full well when they cannot function you will do the same. And then having sex with that person, if you both aren't too tired cause you're oldish and kinda tired.